I think you'll all agree with me that world-class science is an international enterprise. It doesn't have any geographical boundaries nor cultural barriers. For some time now, social science research has reported on the gradual shift in the US demographics. The STEM population of the United States is becoming more diverse. At Brookhaven, attracting the best and brightest minds from around the world has always been the case, and it will continue to be the case. It is vitally important to Brookhaven's mission and the DOE mandate. Each of you sitting in the audience has your own definition of diversity and inclusion, based primarily on your own backgrounds and your experiences. For me, diversity and inclusion is about valuing our differences, as well as welcoming our perspectives. The fact that we all have different perspectives is what makes the laboratories unique. We are here today to talk about the promise of diversity and inclusion in all of its forms.
When I'm here, there's really nothing that is a barrier to me to do my work, and any accommodation that I've ever needed, I've received, and so I really don't feel like I have a disability when I'm here at my job, because I have everything that I need to do my work just like everybody else. I think one of the things that people wonder about when they first meet me or when they first work with me is, how am I going to be able to do these daily work activities? And I think quickly they realize that just because I have a physical disability, it does not mean that I will not be able to do what I need to do to get my job done and do what I need to do in my daily living. So I think people at first may be a little apprehensive or curious, and I think that quickly goes away once they spend a little bit of time with me.
The laboratory's diversity and inclusion strategy is built on a foundation, starting with our lab values. There was a process some time ago within the laboratory that included many employees, and when that process was completed, we landed on this set of values. The purpose of our values is to maintain a work environment that is definitely is about respect. In fact, respect is one of the 7 elements of our lab values. Based on feedback from employees, from climate assessments, from surveys, and from focus groups, it was clear to laboratory leadership that our values by themselves was not enough to help us establish norms of positive behavior consistently in the workplace. Consequently, the Respectful Workplace Policy was developed, socialized across the laboratory, and supported by training conducted by HR professionals. The Respectful Workplace Policy, along with training, both advances our understanding of valuing differences. The Respectful Workplace Policy states, the lab's mission is best carried out in an atmosphere where employees at all levels value each other and treat each other with respect in urgent and even in urgent and high-pressured situations. We want to emphasize that being respectful towards one another is not a matter of convenience. With this foundation of our values and a respectful workplace policy, we develop our diversity and inclusion strategy, which consists of 4 pillars. The first is enhancing leadership awareness, engaging laboratory employees, fostering retention for women and underrepresented minorities and all other groups that are marginalized, expanding and developing talent pathways and pipelines. Annually, a leadership pillar is part of the diversity and inclusion strategy. Leadership commitment is essential to any change management initiative involving culture change at an organization. That is the case at Brookhaven.
The decision we made was to elevate diversity and inclusion. The reasons are pretty obvious. It's always been the right thing to do. For the decades that many of us have been working on this problem, it's always been the right thing to do. If you look out at the complexity of the problems that we face as a nation, we need contributions from everywhere. We need everybody's ideas. If you look at the demographics for STEM, for science, technology, engineering, and math in the country, the number of kids going into this field is decreasing, oddly enough, and at a time when we need STEM-trained people more than ever. And so it's very much in our interests, both as a laboratory and as a nation, to reach farther than we ever had before.
So in addition to leadership commitment, there are three other elements of enhancing leadership awareness pillar. Although we've implemented a number of best practices similar to many of the other labs which you've heard this morning, my aim today is to share with you a few emergent actions that we are engaged in. Management education on implicit bias is central to change the workplace environment. Last August, our employees, but in particular our managers, participated in training where the implicit bias theory was presented by Carolyn Sinnard. As was mentioned by Chi Chang from SLAC, Carolyn has been out to their lab. She has also been here. I know that she's been to the other labs. And later on today at 1 o'clock, once again, we will have an opportunity to participate in training focused on implicit bias, led by Caroline. The topic, or the title of her talk, is Creating Inclusive Workplaces. Tomorrow morning at 8:45, Stephen Robbins, a national motivational speaker, will also present on implicit bias. His talk is titled, Your Brain is Good at Inclusion, Except When It's Not. In the fall, it is our intent to roll out learning circles on implicit biases, working with employees and managers. Learning circles are flexible, peer-directed learning experiences. Another element of the Pillar for Leadership. Our leaders have annual diversity and inclusion performance goals that are linked to incentive bonus. We are delighted to share with you that our leadership team comprises 35% diverse representation. That is not something that has always been. It's a recent occurrence, and we are proud that we are headed in the right direction. Over the past 24 months, there's been a reorganization at the leadership level which created some opportunities for us to either hire or promote the best and the brightest talent. The second pillar of the diversity and inclusion strategy is engaging laboratory employees. Employees are our lifeline. They make up our committees and our work teams. We get nothing done without employees. We frequently engage employees through focus groups, employee resource groups, and affinity groups. We strive to have multiple avenues for employees to share their perspectives with leadership and each other. At Brookhaven, we have 3 employee resource groups that interact with leaders. They are Brookhaven Women in Science, long-standing employee resource group, been an advocacy group for over 30 years. We refer to them as BWIS. Our diversity working group that has lab-wide representation, and the Americans with Disabilities Act Committee, which addresses accessibility across the laboratory. The photo that you're viewing is Director Gibbs sharing this same diversity and inclusion strategy with the Brookhaven Women in Science group earlier this year. Brookhaven has 5 affinity groups: the African American Affinity Group, the Asian Pacific American Association Group, the Gay, Lesbian, or Bisexual Employee Group, GLOBE, Hispanic Heritage Club, and the Veterans Association. Tomorrow, there will be a session, 11 o'clock, where we will be highlighting our Veterans Association as well as Veterans Outreach. We have our Sandia Labs presenting their Wounded Warrior program. And then we'll also talk about accessibility across the organization. 50% of our employee resource groups or affinity groups offer scholarships. All assist with employee outreach for recruiting new talent, retention, and onboarding. We offer a suite of family-friendly practices and policies as a way of engaging laboratory employees. A few of these include flexible work arrangements, lactation rooms, dual career couple hiring, on-site summer camp, child development center. I'll talk about a couple of them. Like many of the laboratories, we too have a flexible work arrangement. As a matter of fact, we've had it for almost a decade. We've recently enhanced the flexible work arrangements to include telecommuting practices, expanded. In the last 2 years, we have stood up 3 lactation rooms to support nursing mothers. A third strategy, or a pillar of our strategy, is fostering retention for women and underrepresented minorities. We have designed, implemented, and employed best practices to broaden our approach to retain top talent. In particular, we've implemented an enhanced supervisor development program that now spans 15 months. It has new course content as well as additional courses. This program brings together research and support supervisors. It teaches critical supervisory skills, and it fosters an understanding of the unique challenges that research and support supervisors face. Our supervisors come from the ranks of our employees, and it is important that training take place at all levels. The need for a formal mentoring program to enhance our inclusion was most strongly identified in the American Physical Society's climate assessment, which we participated in, along with feedback from employee resource groups and affinity groups. Tomorrow, there will also be a session on our mentoring program. It will give you an opportunity to learn more about the program, and we hope that you'll come and visit with the leaders that run the mentoring program. I'd also like to point out to you that Laboratory Director Doone Gibbs, the Deputy Director of Science and Technology, Bob Tribble, and the Deputy Director of Operations are all mentors participating in the mentoring program. You've heard it earlier today, the difference that mentoring, and as Chi Cheng indicated, perhaps sponsorship as an advanced level of mentoring, is important. I'll ask you a question. Are you engaged in a formal mentoring program? The fourth pillar of our diversity and inclusion strategy is expanding and developing talent pathways and pipeline. Ken White, Manager of Office of Education Programs, will start off comments pertaining to pathways and pipeline.
Thank you, Shirley. In my military part of my career, in my early career, I was trained as a chemist. And so when challenged with the challenge of diversity, I looked at Le Chatelier's principle. I wanted to bring a little science into the thinking here. And if you're familiar with it, it's a reversible equation where as you drive up concentrations in any of the components, it drives the reaction the other direction. And so looking at it in terms of diversity, if we can drive up the concentration of those participating in science who are from the underrepresented communities, if we can drive up collaboration with our system, And we can also drive that equation toward diversity within DOE and the laboratory. Conversely, if we drive up the diversity as that starts to happen, what will happen is that equation will reverse, and we'll begin to see more and more underrepresented populations begin to participate in the sciences, and we'll begin to see more collaborations occur. So another important factor of this particular formula, or this principle, is that it also benefits from a catalyst. And today you heard the catalyst of leadership. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the catalysts that we've deployed. Like many of you, we have a whole suite of K through 12 programs. We have college programs. We host teachers and faculty. In doing that, it's important to make sure that the representation in those programs is very strong. And so what we've found to be one of the most effective practices is to work with our partners who are trusted in those communities. And so we've made many collaborations, and the first I'll talk about is the My Brother's Keeper program. We hosted 150 young men and women of color here for the My Brother's Keeper program. And to help inspire them beyond seeing the light source too, we invited or had a partner in this, SUNY Old Westbury. They're the most diverse college in the SUNY system, one of the most diverse in the country. And joining us today is Dr. Calvin Butts, and you'll see his words of inspiration here.
If you're going to study in STEM, you need to have every moment that you can get to apply yourself to doing the research that's necessary. And so we're working hard to make sure you get these opportunities, and we want you to take advantage of each and every opportunity laid before you.
Dr. Butts, you look much more attractive in person. I don't know where it went, but he's here. So also joining us today in My Brother's Keeper, later on we'll have a session at lunchtime. We have Carlos Garcia from the New York State Education Department who's leading that effort for the state, and we're going to look at a regional plan for how we drive that program. We also partnered with groups like Girl Scouts who have an increasing interest in STEM, and in doing so, we invited them in, and a number of the girls had a hands-on program in nanoscience, and imagine their excitement as they visited our Center for Functional Nanomaterials. And in the background, you'll see they applauded as the emblem of the Girl Scouts emerged from the scanning transmission electron microscope as they watched it doing its work. That's one of the ways we're trying to motivate young people to think about programs like that. We run a 9th grade program for 9th grade minority and underrepresented, underprivileged students. That program is a four-week introduction to the DOE sciences. And in doing that, I was curious where they end up. And so I'm happy to say that we now have half of those students will migrate into our 10th and 11th grade programs, and half of those students will follow into our high school research program. That high school research program, where they're working 6 weeks here with our scientific staff doing internships, was also a point of curiosity for me, and so I wanted to see where we were there. We brought in, true to our nature, we brought in an intern to start digging around, and we found out of the 6 young ladies we could find from 2006 to 2008 who participated in that program, 1 completed the baccalaureate, 1 completed a master's degree, and the other 4 out of the 6 completed their PhDs, all in STEM. All 6 of them followed on into STEM programs. Similarly, at the university level, we use those partnerships to drive those programs as well. We use the Department of Energy programs as the base, which is essential to us, and then we partner with other collaborators, like the New York State College Science Technology Entry Program. The state worked with our local colleges to help fund the internships for our New York State students from underrepresented, underprivileged populations to be part of our Department of Energy internship program, using that as a model. Similarly, we worked with the national level, the National Science Foundation, the Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation. And we've done the same thing, and the outcome, as you'll see for our summer programs, is very, very diverse. For the last 10 years running, we've had 33% underrepresented minority, and we've had very close to a 50-50 gender split every year over those 10 years. So we're working as a catalyst with our partners who are trusted in those communities. We have leadership serving as a catalyst to drive that equation and accelerate the reaction. And today we're going to share with you 3 programs of how we do that here at Brookhaven. And to do that, I introduce Terrence Buck.
Thank you, Ken. GEM is an outstanding graduate engineering program for underrepresented students. It is a long-standing network of leading corporations, government laboratories, and top universities that enables qualified students from underrepresented communities to pursue graduate education in applied science and engineering. As an executive board member, I have interacted with well-qualified candidates who, upon completion of their master's or PhD, are ready for the national STEM workforce. As a result, they are excellent candidates for the DOE National Laboratory System. There are over 100 university and industry members associated with GEM. Brookhaven Fellows, past and present, have graduated from Columbia, Cornell, Harvard, Howard, MIT, Princeton, Stony Brook, and Yale, just to name a few. The GEM experience offers fellows to intern at industry partners such as Brookhaven for multiple summers, exposing them to the rigor and research opportunities at Brookhaven. This in turn is an excellent pathway in building our own engineering and scientific talent base. Industry has recognized the higher caliber of these fellows. Our challenge is to become more attractive to this talent base. GEM fellows are drawn to the DOE complex. However, the number of GEM fellows employed across the DOE complex is low. We believe this program offers real potential for the future STEM workforce. It would be ideal if every laboratory supports at least one GEM fellow. I will help you with that. Alliance for Graduate Education and the Professoriate Transformation. AGAP-T. It's a new National Science Foundation program grant awarded to Stony Brook University in partnership with Brookhaven. This program is designed to increase workforce diversity in STEM. This is a unique program as it is the first of its kind. The program capitalizes on the discipline and professionalism accomplished at Stony Brook University and Brookhaven. The program attracts underrepresented minority graduate students and postdocs who are U.S. citizens. The program aims to develop skills and success for an intensive academic and research environment. Since fiscal year 2013, Brookhaven has hired 4 postdocs through AGAP-T, with 2 more in the pipeline. Brookhaven is using GEM and AGAP-T collaborations to address the low representation of women and underrepresented minorities. On the board of AGAP-T is the chair of Increase, which Noel Blackburn will tell you more about.
An important component of DOE's mission is the construction and operation of world-class scientific user facilities. After participating with a number of BNL researchers through the Office of Science, Office of Workforce Development for Teachers and Scientists Visiting Faculty Program, a group of professors collaborated with the then National Synchrotron Light Source, our Office of Diversity, and the Office of Educational Programs to form the Interdisciplinary Consortium for Research and Educational Access in Science and Engineering, known as INCREASE, with its primary objective to creating opportunities for women and underrepresented minority professors to gain access to these facilities. INCREASE comprises of 11 core minority serving institutions, or MSIs, with its headquarters at Hampton University and HBCU in Virginia. This afternoon, we will have a session focused on INCREASE and its future. Although BNL is its birthplace. Increase is not designed to be limited to one lab. Rather, to be utilized by the entire DOE complex. Since its inception in 2007, Increase has hosted 14 workshops throughout the DOE complex at labs such as SLAC, Lawrence Livermore, Lawrence Berkeley, and Argonne. Here at BNL, these workshops have introduced 53 independent professors and 34 graduate and undergraduate students to the user communities. This is the kind of impact Increase can have on labs nationwide. In 2015, 40 professors from 34 minority-serving institutions, and this year, 33 professors from 30 minority-serving institutions gathered at DOE headquarters in Washington, D.C. to meet and interact to discuss means of engagement with DOE program managers. This is significant because, uncommon to minority-serving institution scientific community, these events were able to bring these minority-serving scientists to the DOE headquarters on this scale and magnitude. Increased members are not asking for a handout. As a matter of fact, they are working tirelessly and developing their competitiveness in their areas of expertise. Professor Stephen Igwagi from Alabama A&M University was awarded a $2 million contract with the Department of Homeland Security to continue his nuclear research detector work with BNL's detector group. He also got an additional $500,000 for his students. Professor Gabriel Guamision from Delaware State University was able to collaborate with Stony Brook University and BNL and obtained an NSF grant to create opportunities for African American students to pursue their master's and PhD programs in geosciences. As a matter of fact, one of his students, Melissa Sims, introduced Secretary Moniz at the National Synchrotron Science II dedication ceremony. And through Professor Marcus Alfred, Howard University is the only HBCU that is an active member, participating member on the Phoenix collaboration at RIC. These activities mentioned lay the foundation and the common ground for diverse intellectuals to collaborate and demolish the barriers that have hindered the progress of inclusion. Important to understand, the executive committee has undertaken all these efforts pro bono. We need to assist them to get to the next level. In brief, Increase is scalable and can be an effective vehicle through research collaborations in changing implicit bias in our scientific community. Here today we have the leadership of all the labs. I hope you all have seen the potential of this consortium in creating real change. Using this model, I know that the DOE National Lab System can show the nation how change can be and be a catalyst for the future. Inclusion increases innovation. Shirley will wrap up and summarize our diversity strategy.
Thank you, Ken, Terrence, and Noel. We get nothing done without people. We get nothing done without partnership. Brookhaven's diversity and inclusion strategy has 4 pillars: enhancing leadership awareness around implicit bias in particular, engaging lab employees so that no group feels marginalized, fostering retention for women and underrepresented minorities. We must retain our talent and develop our talent, expanding and developing talent pathways and pipeline. The strategy communicates that we have had some modest success, and it identifies areas that will require more work. It's been said, not only by Director Gibbs, by Bob Lincoln, by several other lab directors, we too are not there yet. Our numbers clearly indicate that, but we are committed to developing a path to make a difference towards an inclusive work environment. We strongly believe that by increasing access and exposure, we increase innovation. By changing our circle of influence, and for all of us, what that means is broadening the people that we interact with on a daily basis, coming out of our comfort zones. If we do that, we will increase innovation. By removing barriers like implicit bias, we increase our ability to create an inclusive work environment for all people. The power of innovation is unleashed when diversity talent is present, and valuing differences is visible and felt. Inclusion increases innovation. In the end, it will require us to lead,
listen,
Embrace.
Innovate.